Hello again, guys. Reset Jet here. We're currently in position for departure off runway 35 left in Orlando, and we'll be demonstrating a normal takeoff profile in the 757 in this short video. Now, it doesn't matter which version of the 75 you're flying. This applies both to the Dash 200, which is what we're in today, and the Dash 300, as well as the 767 Dash 300. Now, obviously, this isn't the only way to perform takeoffs. Company procedures are going to vary, and I only know how to fly this procedure the way in which my company taught me, so take this info for what it is. Before we do get started, there are certain panels and instruments that I'd like to point some attention to because they're going to be important throughout this departure. First and foremost is going to be the MCP. For the MCP, if you've ever flown any Boeing aircraft before, you know that we are going to fly with the flight directors on, as well as the throttle armed. For the airspeed, my company likes to bug the V2 speed, so today our speed is going to be 143, which is what we've got here. For the departure, obviously, if it's an RNAV departure, we'll use LNAV. If it's not, we'll disarm that and we'll depart on heading mode, or using the heading selector. But we're going to be on the GME3 RNAV departure today, so LNAV is going to be armed as well as VNAV. We'll bug the runway heading and then the initial altitude. Now, next panel I'd like to look at is the altimeter. Our company likes to bug 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet, depending on whether you're using NADP2 or NADP1. The reason why is when we get to either 1,500 or 1,000 feet, that's our acceleration height, and that's when we are going to prompt the pilot monitoring to use the climb button here on the thrust reference panel. Now it does it automatically in a flight factor. I don't know if that's the case for other aircraft, for other 75s and other airlines, but in ours we have to actually manually press those buttons there. The other instrument I'd like to look at is the ADI. The reason why it's important is realistically we're only looking for the enunciations that we get from the FMA, and I'll point out what those indications are here momentarily. The other instrument I'd like to point out here is our airspeed indicator. We are going to bug V1, VR, and V2 is automatically bugged depending on what we've got on the MCP. And the other bugs we have here are our flaps 5 clean speed and our flaps up clean speed, and that's going to be dependent on our weight, obviously, but the reference speed we use is our flaps 30 speed plus 40 knots for flaps 5, which is 168, and flaps 30 plus 80 for the clean speed, which is 208 knots today. So as we are accelerating through 148, our company, I believe it's 20 knots, and accelerating, we can go ahead and clean up to flaps 1, and then between 168 to 188, that's where we were going to set our flaps up. We'll set our flaps up at about 188 knots and accelerating through 208 knots. The last instrument I would like to point out here is our flap selection, or our flap indicator rather. The reason why I'd like to point that out is because Boeing actually authorizes a flaps 1 takeoff for the 75, but I'm willing to put money that none of the airlines actually use flaps 1 for departure on the 75. Flaps 5, 15, and 20 is what is usually used for departure, and flaps 5 it's usually the norm, especially on a runway that's I'd say longer than 10,000, 11,000 feet. And the reason why that's important is because if you do have flaps 1 set here, you're not going to get a takeoff configuration warning. So what I like to do is reference the takeoff reference speed, or reference page rather, on the FMC, and just make sure that whatever setting is here in the L1 page, that's what we've got set here in a flap selector. Alright, so all that being said, when we put this all together, It should look something like this. Initially, we are going to set an EPR of 1.1 before advancing the throttles and pushing the EPR button. Now, the setting of 1.1 EPR isn't quite as important as just ensuring that your engines are accelerating uniformly. Now, if you're flying a 7.6 or GE engines, you will have an N1 setting. In that case, you're going to set an N1 of 70% before advancing the throttles and pushing the N1 button. Once we are at 80 knots, we'll verify both airspeed indicators read 80 knots, as well as an FMA indication of throttle hold, and we'll verify that the engine indications are normal, so we'll say thrust normal. Once we are at V1, we'll continue obviously. VR will start to rotate at 2 to 2.5 degrees per second, up to 15 degrees. Once we've got a positive rate, we'll bring the gear up, and at this point we can start to follow the flight director. Once we're at 400 feet, we'll either select heading mode, or we'll verify that the LNAV has become active, so we'll verify our roll mode. And once we are at our acceleration height, we are going to verify the selection of climb power. Again, it does that automatically for us in this airplane, so that's nice. And then we are going to verify that we've got an FMA indication of EPR VNAV speed. If it's the 7.6, it should say N1 and VNAV speed. Once we're at our flaps 5 maneuvering speed, we'll select flaps 1. And finally, once we are in between our flaps 5 clean speed and our flaps up clean speed, we'll select flaps up and call for the after takeoff checklist. And that is essentially it. Alright guys, with all that being said, let's put what we've learned into practice here and hop in the aircraft and get going. Alright, EPR. A little bit of forward pressure initially. Right there's 80 knots, throttle hold, thrust normal. V1 rotate. There's a positive rate, gear up. Pitch for 15 initially. Let's see what the flight director wants us. There's LNAV active. Thousand feet. Climb power is EPR VNAV speed. We're already above our flaps up clean speed, so we'll bring the flaps to 1. Add a little bit of nose up trim here. And we're still accelerating. We'll go ahead and bring the flaps up to, or flaps 2 up. And run the after takeoff checklist. I'll go ahead and turn the autopilot on here. The after takeoff checklist essentially is just, we'll bring the flaps up, landing gear is up and off, APU is off. Packs are auto, any ice is off. After takeoff checklist is complete. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I know it was a little bit of a short one, but I hope you guys took something away from this video. I do have a full flight tutorial coming up here, but unfortunately I'm still in the middle of editing that video and trying to rework some things that I've missed there. But that being said, at the time of this filming, I do have a 4-day trip coming up here, so I'll try and release that as soon as I can here within the next week or so. Hope you guys learned something. Look forward to bringing out more content for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and leave that in the comment section. And thanks again, guys. I'll see you on the next one.